Culinary Delights. We are inside the Secret Garden at Emerson Spice Hotel right here in Zanzibar. We are about to celebrate International Ocean Day, and we have the Nordic countries who are celebrating the Nordic Week here in Zanzibar to commemorate Ocean's Day. Now it's a very special episode because this year's theme is culinary literacy and seafood sustainability. That's where me and you come in as foodies. We got to know where the food comes from and how best you could cook it in a healthy way that will make you healthy, more nutritious. But yet again, we want you to conserve the nature when you eat your food, especially your seafood, or if it is your vegetables and fruits. We have to make sure of where we buy these ingredients for the next generation to also enjoy this experience. We are in Zanzibar and we cannot wait to show you what is happening here at International Ocean's Day inside the Secret Garden at Emerson Spice Hotel right here in Zanzibar. My name is Khadija Zimbwe. This is Culinary Delights.
Inatosha, ya. Naweke bakuli maji baridi pembeni hapa.
Bakuli ya maji baridi.
Så hii haitumii muda.
Culinary literacy is defined as abilities that allow individuals to prepare meals from the scratch. It is the knowledge and talent to make a delicious tasting dish from available foods. However, culinary literacy begins at home. A family that goes to the market together, gets into the kitchen together to prepare food for the entire family is said to be the best practice of preserving authentic dishes that connects young ones to their culinary heritage. This practice is still common among Zanzibari and Tanzanian communities.
Friends of the Ocean, it's a great pleasure and honor to welcome you to the opening event of the Ocean Day here in Zanzibar and Stone Town on behalf of the Nordic ambassadors. Nordic Week is something we do every year, done for a long time, the Nordic ambassadors, but this is the first time we move out of Dar es Salaam. So it's a great pleasure to be here. Tanzanian coastal resources are of immense strategic importance to social and economic sectors such as shipping, fishing, tourism, trade, agriculture and industrial developments. Tanzania's coastal ecosystem is a home to a wide range of important and valued species. Protecting marine life is especially important to the economy of Zanzibar, as it relies heavily on tourists to maintain its natural beauty. When we talk about the ocean, we need to talk about food security. Protecting marine life is also essential for that. The world cannot feed itself without fish. All experts agree on that. Fish is a food with excellent nutritive value, which provides high quality protein and a large variety of vitamins and minerals. The importance of marine fish is even greater for coastal populations in developing nations. Healthy oceans provide the foundation for a sustainable ocean economy, including sustainable tourism sector. Sustainable and resilient coastal and marine tourism sector can deliver protection, production and prosperity by stimulating high quality, year-round economic opportunities for local communities, restoring and strengthening the resilience of ecosystems in which they can operate and revitalize culture and heritage. Dear all, food is an important part of Tanzanian culture, which attracts foreign visitors seeking a complete experience with a cocktail of history, culture and cuisine. Tourists are interested in a taste of authentic dishes made of local ingredients. Our value creation must be based on a sustainable ocean economy, and our management of marine resources and all our ocean policies must be based on knowledge and sound scientific advice. There are three major threats to ocean health. The oceans are vulnerable to climate change, overfishing, litter and other types of pollution. The ocean absorbs approximately 1/4 of the world's annual carbon dioxide emissions and are therefore becoming increasingly more acidic. This means that conditions are changing rapidly and will continue to do so in the future. This concerns us all. We are dependent on oceans full of life so that they can continue to provide the ecosystems services that we need. Dear all, we have talked about the importance of healthy oceans. We are glad to see so many partners here today that share the same understanding and that are involved in different ways in promoting and protecting marine resources. We have talked about the importance of marine resources for nutrition as well as tourism. During this morning event, we will have the opportunity to learn more on culinary literacy.
Knowing about food relates to understanding of food and nutrition. Zanzibaris are said they consume over 80% of organic foods every day.
We had this farm inherited from our late father, and it has always been an organic farm. Of recent, around 2020, we started with the experience of, at that time we just call it event, which was from the farm to the table. We were having a bit of a difficulties in selling our organic produce, which was our main focus for trading, pack it in a pakacha, which is a coconut basket, and sell it. But then later we got into the, with the support of our other colleagues, the food we are cooking was very delicious, Swahili food, and then they say, why don't we just get into this one? And that's where we started with the pop-up restaurant. We say pop-up restaurant is not a good name, it's from the farm to the table. The idea was also to see as much as possible product that we are cooking, we know where they are coming from. So we produce them from the farm and we become market of ourselves, and then we cook it, and now this is happening every Sunday. So as you said, organic is a wide scope, is a lifestyle. It's not just farming. And we are looking it into a narrow area, but we need to expand our look into it. Organic is also, to me, authenticity in how we can go back in our traditional food that we have been eating, that we made what we are. You are what you eat, but it's also what it eats, depends on what it eats. If you have your spinach, you have to ask yourself, what did the spinach eat before I eat it? Because that is what you will be eating and that is what you will add into your body. If the spinach is eating pesticides, which is now find a common trend, if it is eating chemical fertilizers, which we are now spraying left, right, and center, then your body is eating that rubbish. And then you are lacking those essential elements that put that thing which is called flavor. It's very worrying nowadays that if we see kids, they don't know what is the real flavor of the food. If they cook spinach, which was grown under conventional way, the taste is completely different. So if we lose the taste, then we end up not recognizing that this is not food and this is food. So food should be beyond the amount that we take in. It should also go into the quality. And the organic way of production, which we call it the Kilimo Highway, it encourages the food to be dense. It means it picks up zinc, boron, cobalt, all these minerals that are needed. They are there in the soil. We've been given them by the God. But we have to find a way to extract them to come to the plants. And in a natural way, that is what is happening. But if we push into the agenda of thinking, believing, which is not true, science has proven that using chemical will get more, but we will get less, and we'll get more diseases out of that, and we'll get a lot of these non-communicable diseases and also affecting our health. So if you come to the farm, we tell people here we are only cooking our traditional food, the like of mseto, the like of makopa, the like of ugari wa muhogo, all those foods, mbazi, kunde, majani ya maboga, all those food that we used to eat traditionally and we take for granted, but they are the ones that build us the way we are now. So unaniona hivi? Niko vizuri kabisa. Kutokana na vyakula vilivyokuwa vya afya juu yetu. So you get a sample of those. We put out about 15 to 17 dishes. It's a buffet and you choose. But it is also a space where we interact, we talk, we meet friends, people bring their families, and we try to talk about where are we heading, how we can bring back our kids into liking our own food, what are we losing in our own culture, what this fast thing comes from, what are we rushing for? Because everybody says, I don't have time to cook, and then they go to the supermarket, and then they get half-cooked stuff, which are frozen for a year, 2 years, but then they think I'll just open the packet and pour it in, and I'm fast and I'm done. Why should I bang, bang, bang with a kinu? There at home, we are also cooking in the morning. So if you come early, you'll see people in the cooking. If it is a spices that needs to be grounded, is using a mortar, it makes a difference. Then just going straight into the blending and mixing up. And all these supplements that we put in the food, they are all made in the kitchen. So it's not things like Ajitimotos and the likes. We don't even know what they are. And you think that they bring the flavor, but they bring addiction.
Okay, so what I told you earlier, it's about that Nordic Quick here in Zanzibar, and we have one of the executive chefs who's been in the aisles for some time, and we have Chef Yussi. He will tell us much about the food in Zanzibar, but get to know exactly why do we have students behind us and being part of this special day. Chef Yussi, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
The theme this year on Ocean Day is culinary literacy. Now, having a person like yourself, we believe will learn much about culinary literacy. And I hear that in this era, you got to know why, or you have to familiarize yourself with the kind of food you're eating. Why do you think it is important for someone to know the food they're eating before consuming it?
Well, I mean, as a chef, and if you want to learn to cook, you need to try the food, of course. If you don't know what you're eating, you cannot produce it for others either, you know. So,
yeah.
sorry. It's very important that you try what you're cooking, and understand what you're cooking.
And then passing it to the other chefs. That's something
Yeah, of course. I mean,
interesting.
that's part of our job as chefs. We always keep training, and we always keep training the younger ones. And the industry is growing tremendously here in Zanzibar. There is an incredible need for young new talents that somebody has to train them, and that's what we are doing out in the field, in the hotels, after they finish the schooling at Marumbi in this case, but there is many other hotel schools. And well, education is the key to things, you know. Without education we cannot do very much.
One of the most known names in the food scene in Norway is Andreas Viestad. He is a journalist and writer, TV presenter, and also a restaurateur. He has been coming to Zanzibar for so many years. In marking Oceans Day, he has been working with young students from Maruhubi University of Zanzibar, teaching them different cooking techniques by using locally sourced ingredients from the farms and ocean. As we celebrate Ocean Day, on the agenda, the theme this year is culinary literacy and food sustainability. And we have Chef Andre, a great person to take us through the general knowledge of understanding the concept of culinary literacy. So Chef Andre, welcome to Culinary Delights.
Thank you.
All right, so when we talk of culinary literacy, some people would be like, who doesn't know how to cook?
Well, most people today don't really know how to cook. I mean, this is one of the things that the reason why I like to use the term culinary literacy is that I work in advocacy with children, and my main, the thing that I'm fighting for every day is that children has a right to learn about food and how to cook. And that is just as important as learning how to write and to read. And I think that, you know, culinary literacy should be a foundation of our education. You can't just assume that you know this is something that you will learn from your mother. Maybe your mother doesn't know.
And we're like, what are the drivers of healthy eating? Because it starts with the cooking, but you need to know a few things before cooking, as what you're gonna cook, right? Now, what are the drivers of healthy eating as one of the options that some people believe culinary literacy is actually knowing the food better?
Yes, I think that, like literacy, it has different levels. You know, if you have a basic literacy when it comes to reading, you first learn the alphabet, and then you learn how to read, and you learn how to write. And I think it's a little bit the same when it comes to cooking. You should know some of the basic elements. You should know how to use them and how to enjoy them. But you don't necessarily need to do it in that order. You know, I think that when we educate young people, we very often go the other way around. We ask, what do you like? And then we do cooking. And then we talk about why are these things good for you as well. Because if you start the other way around, you start with a speech, not so interesting. You start with something that you really like, it's a much better way.
Okay, so culinary literacy in 2024, what does it generally mean?
It means knowing how to cook, how to enjoy food, and why. And I think that it's becoming increasingly important because you see that there's this obesity pandemic, which is really global these days. And you also see that people who grow up today, whether it be in Zanzibar, in Dar es Salaam, or in Oslo, where I come from, they live somewhere where maybe their parents or grandparents didn't live. So a lot of their knowledge is not necessarily relevant, or it's getting lost. And I just both want to fight for preserving that knowledge that maybe the grandmother had, or also to give new knowledge that might be relevant for this time. Because otherwise we know what they're going to have. They're going to have, you know, their KFC chicken, they're going to have their processed foods. And that's not really good for your health. It's not good for the health of the society. It's really not contributing that much to local economy and local culture. It just makes us poorer.
Okay. Now, in the modern cooking world, you are so much fascinated with freshness of ingredients, but also knowing where that particular food comes from. And to some kids, because you love working with kids, to some kids, they might not have any idea of where, let's say, ubungo comes from. Now, the concept of knowing the ingredients, how much powerful that is for someone to get into the kitchen and work on a certain recipe, perhaps?
That's such a good question, because I think, you know, every kid that I know loves to sit in front of the television and see a nature show, for instance. It's fascinating to see, you know, the life of animals, the how nature interacts with itself and with us. And if we can bring some of that into food, it is really fascinating to see how a bungo fruit grows, or to see how we can harvest from the earth. And one thing that I've noticed is that, you know, if you ask a kid, where's a carrot from? Some people, most of them will know that it grows in the ground. But once they're allowed to take a carrot out of the ground, it's not just knowing at some sort of theoretical level, it is knowing deep within yourself. That is something completely different.
Okay. Now, cooking, there's so many cooking methods, from the traditional cooking methods to the modern cooking methods. With the modern world, it seems like people are so busy, and some cooking methods are a little bit difficult to use and run with the pace of time, and at the same time you want to eat a good meal. With the modern world, as we're doing the culinary literacy thing, I want to know some of the cooking techniques which are basically healthy options that people should use, rather than the daily basis that you got to fry, you got to boil, you know, freshness and all that stuff. What are the basic and simple cooking techniques which actually suit the modern world, and of course you end up having a good meal at the end of the day?
Well, I think that there are many of the traditional cooking methods that really need preserving, because they're an important part of us. And I think that not all food should be as quick as possible. But I also think that we're actually living in a time which is very different from our grandparents or great-grandparents, because we can make choices. For instance, if I want to make a long simmer dish, which is like common in my country, it would take my grandmother maybe 12 hours to make it, but I can go into the kitchen, I can get it started, and I can put it in the oven, for instance, and then I don't have to mind it at all. But she would have to maybe tend the fire, you know. So in a way, we are incredibly lucky. We can use the old methods, we can use new methods, but we can also use the old methods in new ways.
Okay, now speaking of that, as a country in Tanzania, now our agenda is on clean cooking. Agenda is a global agenda, but in Tanzania, we have a specific 10 years plan to make sure that Tanzanians are cooking in a clean and healthy way. How easy, or how was it like back in the country when clean cooking was introduced? Because we are trying to adjust with the transition now.
I think that very often, if you have that knowledge about food, you will see that some things don't necessarily need to be cleaned that much, so you don't need to use that much fuel. You need to make it food safe, you need to have that knowledge. But sometimes, you know, with vegetables, for instance, I think that today there's much more knowledge that if you have mchicha or spinach, you don't need to cook it for 1 hour. You need to cook it for a few minutes. It's actually better, it's more nutritious, you use less energy. So I think that there are ways that you can take ingredients that are a part of our heritage, and you can say, you can study them anew and say, well, we don't have to do everything the old way, and we can actually simplify it while still making it more tasty and more healthy.
Okay, so in order to achieve that, we must have a better option in terms of recipes. The recipes will direct us to proper cooking methods.
I'm not sure I agree.
Why not?
Because I think that knowledge is more important than recipe. Because
Okay.
I think that a lot of the focus on cooking is about following orders. But if you follow orders without really having an understanding of what you do, it's really a very shallow and superficial thing. It's a little bit, if we return to the literacy thing again, it's a bit like if you're in school and you just repeat the words after your teacher, you don't necessarily understand them. But if you're truly literate, you're able to read them and write them yourself. So the most important is to have that basic knowledge, and then the recipe can be a guiding point. You know, you like to cook, I like to cook. So I like to use recipes as an inspiration, but I don't follow them point by point.
Okay, now let's go back to what we had earlier on in terms of the food. Now I want to discover the stories behind these dishes that we had, with the 7 dishes that was introduced to some of us, and the best part is these dishes were all cooked from the locally sourced ingredients. And I was like, okay, I need to know, what were you thinking when you thought of creating such a menu?
Well, the thing is, I helped sort of set up the concept for the restaurant here at Emerson Spice. But the important thing is, I knew that my knowledge of Zanzibari cooking is you know, it's flavored by my huge love of Zanzibari cooking, but not the deep knowledge. I'm not from here. So what we said was more, we wanted the chefs to contribute with things that they had from their background, and then we could maybe tweak them and make sure that they fit like a modern palate and to be a classy restaurant. But I had never heard of moringa before.
Okay.
I had never tasted a baobab leaf.
Okay.
I had never tasted birimbi. And I think that these things are so amazing. And you know, you mentioned the bungo fruit, which to me is my it's the most amazing fruit I know.
Okay.
And I think that what I wanted to do when I helped establish this restaurant was to say, okay, now we are presenting an idea for a type of kitchen, but the exact recipe that's going to come in is not going to come from me. It's going to come from the local cooks who work here. Karibu tena.
Asante sana, and I believe my viewers at home, they've learned much about culinary literacy. It is in the very few words. That's why it's important for you to know those authentic recipes, because you got to cook the nature of where you're coming from. This is Culinary Delights. You can talk to me through my email address, which is culinary.delights@capitaltv.co.tz. Until next time, we say keep cooking.